We bought this house in September of 1977, so it's been exactly 44 years that we lived here. We've both lived most of our adult life in this house. We raised our family in this house.
We had our two little girls, and we raised them here. We had big parties. This was a very happy house.
We are at the Bagley house in Hinsdale, Illinois. The very early work of Wright's, 1894. And interestingly enough, it is a work that Wright published a fair amount early on in his career.
When you look at the house today, it looks fairly conventional. But if you think of this house when it was built in 1894, surrounded by all of these Victorian houses,
with little living rooms and little, square box rooms.
This must have seemed enormously modern and, and unusual.
Wright was really in a period of figuring out his career, his aesthetic, and things like that. For instance, the main floor plan of the house is very similar to the floor plan of his home in Oak Park. Similarly, an octagonal library that is added onto the north of this house is very much like the octagonal library in his studio. So there's some very personal connections to Wright's own work, his own home.
I've lived in Hinsdale for roughly 8 years. We have, a difficult time here with old homes. I think the lots here are so valuable that people can come in, tear down the homes, and build something new.
A lot of Wright's houses, because he was building in outlying areas, they are often in areas that have become much more affluent over time, and they tend to be relatively small. So they are not necessarily always in line with what the local market is looking for.
One of my best friends is a realtor here in town, and she said, "Oh my gosh, the Frank Lloyd Wright house just hit the private listing." So the no for sale sign, no on the MLS, like a public posting. I knew from living here in this town that this lot, it would be a teardown. And so I emailed John and the Conservancy.
Late on a Thursday evening, I got an email from Alexis that the house was going on the private market.
And as amazing as they were on it in a matter of an hour. They had coordinated a conference call and a plan of action. And I was just in awe of, within an hour, 90 minutes, that they mobilized.
So Frank Lloyd Wright, he designed over 1,000 buildings, and we saw half of them realized, and about 20% of those buildings have been lost to demolition or neglect or just natural disasters. Our mission as an organization is to facilitate the preservation and stewardship of these remaining nearly 400 structures.
There is a Frank Lloyd Wright house scheduled for auction this morning, but apparently not everybody's on board with this whole thing. We've got Roseanne out there, and she's got the details.
Well, good morning, Anita. You know, a lot of neighbors, even some preservationists, had no idea this was a Frank Lloyd Wright house and one of his earliest designs on top of that. So with that kind of history, they don't want to lose it. But as it stands now, there's nothing to protect it.
So many people ask us why it's so important to save every single one of them. And I would answer that by saying that every Frank Lloyd Wright house is unique, and they should all be saved.
We quickly went into action and put out a press release on the house and put a story of it about it on our website. Shortly after that, one of our board members Safina Ubroy and her husband Lucas Rooker came to Chicago to look at the house.
So we found out late Thursday night. By Friday, I was reading all the material on it. And Friday evening, I called Lucas and said, this building is under threat.
Safina gave me the background on it, and I said, darling, if you want to do something about it, we have to take a look at it in Chicago to assess the situation. And lo and behold, she did something that she's never done before. In an hour, she went ahead, turned around, went to the airport, and hopped on a plane.
When we came around and drove around the hood, at one level we were like, oh, this is a beautiful neighborhood. So a house like this should have a market. And at the same time, we could see that the kind of houses people want here is not even a beautiful house like this. Like, it's just not, it's too small. And the timeline, which was so tight, made it very clear the building was doomed. It was like there was no question. It was gone.
So with that in mind, we spent 48 hours in agony, consulting a lot with the experts. I have to say that the Building Conservancy was fabulous in making available the executive committee, architecture subcommittee, everybody to help us assess the situation.
All the way drive home, we're arguing and deciding what to do. Lucas spent all of Monday in the bank, pretty much.
And Monday evening, we submitted the bid and we accompanied our bid with a letter to Jerry and Jeanette Goldstone that we would be willing to commit to actually restore the house.
Run in and do
It's okay, it'll be easy.
I've told everybody we know that a miracle occurred. It's a true black swan event that Lucas and Safina came at exactly the right moment. There wasn't much of a chance that this house could have been saved.
We're so happy. I mean, I can't tell you how happy we're more than happy. This was a miracle that happened.